Event weapons are a funny thing. They come around every few months. They're not always the best. For instance, sometimes we get stuff like the Dialogues of the Desert Sages, which I'm sure definitely has a use case somewhere. I personally have just yet to see it myself. Don't think I've used this on anyone, despite the fact that I really like the design of the polearm, and I'm sure at some point there will be a polearm character that uses a HP % scaling item that this will be very, very useful for. But I don't have any use for it, currently anyway. Then we have something like the Dodoko Tails, which was, at the time, phenomenal 4-star event item for someone like Klee or Yanfei. I had this on my Yanfei for the longest time. This was an amazing item for Yanfei at the time. I love the Dodoko Tails. Great item. Or we have something like the Missive Wind Spear, which is just a massive attack % increase. I always used it on Shenhua just to get as much attack % as you could possibly get. Unfortunately, as someone who owns Shenhua, I recognize the fact that not a lot of people will have Shenhua because there's not been a rerun in a very long time, just like Eula. Then, of course, we have items that are sort of very specific to certain characters, like the highly elusive Cinnabar Spindle, which sadly just not a lot of people will have just because of how old an event weapon is. 69%. Nice. Defense on someone that scales with defense. On top of that, their elemental scale damage is increased by 80% of said defense. Fantastic. However, very, very niche. Then, of course, we also have the Festering Desire, which is the only event item I do not have, which makes me very, very upset to this very day. But, of course, we have the latest event item in the form of the Calamity of Eshu, which, first of all, decent numbers, 25.1% attack. It's not amazing, but it's, does the job. Fairly high base attack. I think it goes up to 565 at level 90. Don't quote me on that, but I'll see if I can find the numbers somewhere. But more importantly is its passive, which a little bit niche at the minute, kind of like Cinnabar Spindle. There aren't a lot of characters that get a ton of benefits from this currently, but at R5, which you should inevitably getting it to, because you should be doing your events, because if you don't, you will live to regret it, I'm sure. When your character is protected by a shield, which admittedly shield meta was quite a long time ago. However, shields will always have their place, and with the release of this weapon, maybe that's Hoyoverse's sneaky way of being like, hey, we've got some idea with shields coming up. Maybe we've got a shielder who's going to be absolutely broken. We just don't know. On top of that, we have Zhongli coming up next week, so we have quite possibly the best shielder in the game. If you're planning on pulling Zhongli, you're going to have a great shielder for whoever you plan on giving this to. But the fact that the passive very simply is just, while characters are protected by a shield, damage dealt by normal and charge attacks is increased by 40%, and normal and charge attack crit rate is increased by 16%. So not only do you get the attack % up, you get the flat 40% normal and charge attack damage increase when shielded. But if you have a really good shield like Zhongli, you're always going to be shielded, so it's fine. Your normal and charge attack crit rate is increased by 16%. So you have a flat increase of 16% on top of whatever your character's default is. It's very niche is the problem with it currently, but I can see it in the future being very, very good as an option for a main DPS sword user if you just throw in a shielder onto the team, and shields are lovely. I love shields. But one character people have surmised that would be really good for this is Chlorond. Chlorond scales with crit rate. I'm not sure what her base crit rate is off the top of my head. Had a quick check. Chlorond at level 90, base crit rate 19.2. You throw the Calamity of Eshu on. When shielded, ups by 16, goes to 35.2. 35.2 base crit rate. Very, very easy to improve with some decent artifacts. Very easily double it up to 70. Now again, unfortunately, the sword doesn't have a lot of really great options unless you have a main DPS in mind that does a lot of normal attack and charge attacks. Keqing, also a really good option now that I'm seeing her here. She on the other hand scales with crit damage, which is a little bit different, but still increased crit rate, always a good thing. Simply put, all I'm trying to say is do your event. This honestly seems like just a really good event weapon that may not necessarily be great now unless you're using it on Chloron, but I can see the potential of how useful this thing can eventually be. Yes, it is a little bit awkward that you need a shielder on your team, but you can also kind of work around that by having a Geo unit on the team and just picking up crystallizers. Yes, crystallizers suck, they are not good shields, but if you have played the game long enough, you're probably dodging your iframing for a lot of damage anyway, so much so that it doesn't really matter if you have a crystallized shield on. You'll be gaining the benefit if you're iframing through damage. You're not going to be losing the shield, and you're going to be doing a significant amount of increased damage. I really like the look of Calamity Eshu. Normally with the event weapons, I don't really care, but this one, there's just something about it. There's something special, and I would hate for anyone to miss out, because the event weapons, while they may not always be good, sometimes you get special ones, and I'm of the mind that I think this eventually, for the right person, will be really good, and it will be a massive shame if you don't get it while you still can. As of recording, there's about 8 days and a half left. Go and do it, just get it done. It's actually a surprisingly quick and easy event, which I'm very, very thankful for. Yeah, just go and do it. You won't miss out. You'll want the weapon. Just do it, even if you don't use it now, even if you don't level it now, just do it, get the refinement materials, and be done with it. And move on, and enjoy your day. But that's it. That's all I have to say on the matter. Make sure you do your event weapons. It's pretty much is the point of this video. Anyway, I've been James, the Mayor of Jamestown. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, goodbye.